Welcome to the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Frank talk about sex and dating.
Hello, Tamara here. Welcome to the show. Today's guest is Jack Bohanan, a certified Somatic relationship coach. Thanks for joining me, Jack.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on and entertaining this wild last minute idea of let's phrase things as how personhood forms, because, oh my goodness, that's a big topic, but I think it affects a lot of how we relate to each other, how we date. It's universal and really social. We need people. We need people to prop us up early in life, and we need our partners to be there for us and be a sounding board too. So what do you see in relationships that you've heard about or had yourself in terms of how we affect one another? Like, just to open conversation, how do people affect other people in a way that influences our personalities?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought two different ways there. I mean, obviously childhood parents or caregivers, you're born into whatever philosophy they have and become that generally at first. And then the other side is relationships where, you influence them a lot. Like Layla and Alex Hormozy, I listen to them, and they both talk about that, how you have the person you marry is like the most important person because they're going to either help you grow and become amazing or take you down.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Or handicap you, really. And I think we kind of get locked into boxes of who people believe that we're supposed to be. And I know that I've been in that box before of perpetuating somebody else's expectations. Like, oh, I'm supposed to be this person around this in this way and act in this way. So yeah, it's interesting how that happens. And I see that in my clients, that I am a relationship coach for women mostly. And they often are locked into the same pattern with one partner, or the same pattern with the same partner over and over with a different face. That's a really common description. Like, oh, okay, I'm dating the same person over and over. So the question of how that happens is, like you said, very early in its origin, that it's something that we get framed in a particular shape in childhood, and then carry that forward into adult relationships a lot of the time, and then choose that partner, that person, based on whatever we knew of life in childhood. So we're like circling around the topic of attachment theory. And if you want to go straight headlong into it, it's something that I work with clients on a lot of the time. Yeah. That early relationships influence later ones.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we can definitely go into that. And like I said, we've had a few, but there's over 100 episodes, so people pick and choose and might not have heard the other ones related to this.
For sure.
And obviously your take's going to be different, essentially.
So I know that attachment theory is really popular, and it's something that affected my life and my trajectory a lot, of that early conditioning that I received. And it's basically the idea that we end up in one of several categories of the style of our relating based on those early experiences. So I recommend that everyone move away from labels. I don't think labels serve us very much as humans, but it is helpful to understand a little bit of our type and how we came to be the way that we are, so that we can recognize patterns and then shift things by having new experiences. So for listeners who are completely new to this, I might recommend checking out the site attachmentproject.com. It's not something that I'm associated with, but it's a reputable, more research-backed source for information on attachment theory. Attachment theory divides people into 3 categories of insecure attachment, where they're struggling to relate to other people, and then also the category of having secure attachment, which means that, I'm fine with relationships, I'm fine with being alone, I have a baseline for connecting with people and also being alone with myself. So there are 4 categories total. And most people, when they learn about this, feel like the sky part, that, oh, this makes so much sense. My relationship makes sense now. I'm exactly that type, and my partner is this way. This puts everything in order, and it fits us so well. So the most classic depiction of this is someone who feels more overwhelmed by connection someone who's avoidant is the term that applies, that they're avoiding connection or feeling overstimulated by how the other person wants to connect. And then someone who's more anxious about the attachment with their partner, and they're likely to feel distressed when the partner pulls away. So when people learn just a little bit more about this, they realize, oh my goodness, this is us, exactly. And there's another type that combines the two, and it's kind of tricky, but we can just basically leave it out of this discussion, this brief discussion. But my work with clients is really around moving away from some of those labels based on re-experiencing new parts of having relationships. And I'm trained in a method called the Somatic method that I believe is brilliant and more therapeutic than therapy because it incorporates re-experiencing relationship, of re-experiencing what it's like to be in connection with somebody where you can set boundaries and have open communication and have everything focused on the needs of the client. As we enter into this relationship between practitioner and client, everything is focused on the needs of the client without me as the other person trying to get my relational needs met through them, which is so common in like every other relationship. Of course, everyone is looking to satisfy their own relational needs or play out their own insecurities. And the beautiful thing about the Somatic method is that it allows a clean focus on the client, but also reflects on whatever the practitioner has going on, whatever's arising in their nervous system. And it takes me as the practitioner owning a lot of those things of my tendencies and what I might be projecting onto the client. So I find it so much more relational than therapy in one way. And while I work mostly on Zoom, in-person sessions in the Somatic method of sex and relationship coaching can include touch, of experiencing what arousal feels like, or what our core desires are in relationship. It's radically different than therapy, and I'm a fan.
Sounds like it. Sounds radically different. And yeah, I can see where that would be appealing for the people that don't know about the arousal touch part.
Yeah, some people don't get in touch with themselves. They don't have the safety in their intimacy to really experience or play with, experiment with what it's like to be them, what feels good, where boundaries are, what it's like to receive kindness or affection. That's foreign for a lot of people. It's really difficult for a lot of people, myself included, to like receive an enthusiastic compliment and just not reciprocate. Just be like, thanks. There's so much of the time when, I don't know if this is true for you, but so much of the time when we receive a compliment from somebody, we're like, oh, this old thing, this shirt, no, and we should just take it in. We should put it in our back pocket and say, thanks. Yeah. So
yeah, I've gotten to where I just say thank you, but it wasn't always easy.
Cool. Yeah. It's nice when somebody can receive us, and somebody can receive our kindness too, for sure. Yeah. And as you mentioned, I have had an inquiry into what comes up between people of two genders and what's meant by polarity, because that's a really interesting topic too. And I had a beautiful, wild experience of that set in motion my podcast, wherein I interview a bunch of strangers anonymously about what it's been like to be their gender in their country, having their relationships. Like, what has that felt like in your own way, in your own words? What's it like to be you? And I really enjoyed just running around talking to people, talking to shamans in the Amazon, or some guy I met on a boat, like just really random, non-authoritative folks, because there's so much interest in that topic societally and in academia of what is gender, what is true. And really what's true is whatever's coming up for us in the moment and whatever we feel. So the kind of truth where so-and-so said this to me and I felt this way, that's deeply true. That's really bedrock profound. Assuming we're taking that person in good faith and honoring their truth, which I don't see a reason not to. It was an awesome project, and I'm pretty much done with it now. I've satisfied my personal inquiry about that topic and have thoughts that offend everyone. So I don't see anyone as being right or wrong. There's a renewed interest in gender polarity of masculine, feminine, this and that. And then recent academic insistence that's, no, everyone is neutral in this way, and gender is a social construct. And I don't see it that way, that there's any deep call for essentialism, gender essentialism, or that there's neutrality, that everything is just something we made up. So that middle ground is a strange place to inhabit. And it's one of my favorite topics to bring up, but it's also really divisive. So I'm careful about how I present ideas. And I'm curious about yours. You said you've discussed this on other shows.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to point out that there is a send us a text message at the very beginning of the description, and you can use that to send an anonymous question or comment. So I'd really appreciate it. All right. Thanks. Yeah, I was just going to say that I know some people say a man and woman can have both feminine and masculine energy. So it's, it can be looked that way.
Yeah.
But it does seem like, in my experience, it's more true that men have more masculinity, and the ones that do have more masculinity, it works better for them. And the woman that has more femininity or female energy, like the two together work well.
Yeah.
Or you can have the opposite, I guess. A man with more feminine energy and the woman with more masculine energy works for them, potentially, but I wouldn't want that.
Yeah, there you go. There's a degree of personal preference in it. And I think that there are some qualities that are thematic for male-bodied people versus qualities that are thematic for female-bodied people. And it doesn't mean that everyone can't be as they are. I strongly insist that we allow people to be as they are. Like, however you want to define yourself, great. And we kind of get into an identity politics mode that there's a understanding of gender that applies to 80% of people that are cisgender, heterosexual. It's the majority of people. And where we sometimes run aground is we look at a minority of people who have this special, unique, exceptional orientation to gender or sexuality. And it need not confound what's thematic for a lot of people. So there may be some themes for male-bodied people and female-bodied people, but it doesn't mean that that's an expectation for someone who's in the minority and wants to define themselves otherwise. So having that insistence creates a lot of freedom to look at other things, to explore, right? What is essential for men or women, or like edging up against something essential. And right now in academia, there's a lot of activism-driven gender theory that things should be different than they are. Everyone should be included. The themes of gender for men and women should be neutralized as something that's oppressive. And it's like there was a thesis that originated before any hypothesis. So there's a strong drive to prove something in that mindset that I don't think serves science. So activism-driven sociology hasn't arrived at the place that they would have liked it to either. That we defunded Planned Parenthood, we've overturned Roe versus Wade. Like it's not the perfect world that activists envisioned in academia. So I think that coming to something that's more representative, more ergonomic, a theory that's more ergonomic to more people is where we'll gravitate to one way or the other. But it's curious to me, the renewed interest in gender polarity, because so much is changing in our world. There are so many things, and we feel like we don't have ground to stand on. And we don't have roles that we play anymore. There aren't these contrived roles of the man does this and the woman does that, which is great. I'm all for that. Absolutely. But people want to look back to something that is more gender essentialist and try to embody new or like retro ways of being masculine or feminine that might not serve us that well. So in terms of what I preach to my clients, is that a lot of times they're seeking their feminine essence. They're trying to connect with some sort of soft flowing nature that they'll have. And, maybe that's a fit for them. But what's most profound for connecting with another person is being ourselves. That if we're able to feel so healed and complete in ourselves that we're very natural, that's what the modern version of feminine or masculine is. Because those things have changed a lot through time. There are some themes that apply situationally, but what was masculine 500 years ago, very different than what's adaptive for men right now. So
yeah, in your travels, did you find your theory was proven, or like what did you see in different countries or different, or wherever you want to go with the travel side of it?
I didn't have a theory at the outset, and my experience was that before this topic interested me, I connected with a woman on a first date, and she had some wild, deeply feminine swooning experience. And this was in Colombia with a woman who's of Colombian and Italian origin. And she's an artist. So she's like all the girly and all the spice. Mm-hmm. And that experience really opened my eyes because she was very, she acted like a crazy person. Within an hour of meeting me, she was declaring her love. She was dysregulated and falling over. It was some sort of like spiritual thing. She was feeling every emotion at level 11 intensity. It was delightful to watch. And that really perked up my ears there's something here in this culture that is gone in the United States. We've trampled and dismissed and dismembered this type of femininity, if you wanted to call it that. That here's this counterpoint experience that I was unclear on, but it was delightful to me. It was like, ooh, electricity up my spine in those moments. And I felt called to be very upright and protective of her because she needed it. Like she's rolling around on the ground laughing. Like, what do I do with this crazy person? Who was completely sane and sound before and also after. So she got hit with the love lightning, I think just because she felt safe. And that piqued my interest about this topic because that's not something you'd find in the United States. In the United States, our dates feel like interviews with HR. And here's all the magic, all the fire, giggling, completely losing her mind in love. Wow. So that was phenomenal. It was a really cool connection. Didn't work out romantically, ultimately. And I would love to have seen more feminist reforms in her world. Like, I would love a moment of degendered communication, of a deeply equal experience of communication skills. Like, I don't want to be stuck in any sort of role play, and I want a lot of responsibility in my partner. Even if something is close to like this dynamic, dramatic gender dance that we sometimes inhabit, I really want a partner who's steady and not so emotionally fiery that she's going to blow away in the wind. I want communication skills and somebody who's going to be very open and clean in communication with me. And the radiant love coming from this person, beautiful. So there was so much availability there with her in one sense. She was so human and available. It's a very compelling experience for me, for both of us. But that was my thesis, so to speak. That was the counterpoint to the rest of my life, was that there's really something there between men and women where we're radically different. The messages that I'd received in the West as a liberal thinking man was that we should be dramatically equal and undifferentiated. And the rest of the world that hasn't experienced those kind of progressive reforms, they're running on something closer to gender essentialism, where people see a caste role for women, that some things are appropriate for women and other things are appropriate for men. There's a lot of limitation in that. So,
yeah. I was gonna say, it sounds like you were drawn to her, like you're drawn because it brought out your masculine, but then because you oppose it being so unequal, and like you said, she just was like almost too out there for what you're used to. Like, you could see the draw of it, but like you want a little mix of, a little more westernized version of that. Yeah, a little more equal, but you could see the draw of it, because that's what a lot of men talk about, is when the woman is so feminine like that, the energy, it just, you're drawn to want to protect and save the woman. Yeah. So I can see the benefit of that, but then, on her side being a little
there
more.
is something like that. And there is some call to service in the incompletion of someone. So it's kind of cool where the two members of a couple are incomplete in that you need each other in some way. There's something that we're providing or receiving from our partner that we can't quite access ourselves, but really we can in a lot of ways. Right now, as our society and our economies are formed, women are very sufficient. They're very financially capable. A lot of the burdens of childbirth have been removed, either if they choose to have children, or they certainly have the option of not having children. So those kind of things restructure our society and our family. And right now we're at a point where we don't need each other, where there isn't a call to service for men in this way, or anything incomplete about women. Whereas if someone is so dramatic in their representation of some of those traditional traits, it does leave a lot of room for receiving, or a lot of room for something dramatic, where the peg goes in the hole, like that. There's some almost physical or energetic potential for union in that. And right now we're very independent entities, and that's an interesting change. And I see it as a positive change, but people still want to play with those energies of masculinity and femininity, and they often look to the past to do it. They idolize some sort of homemaker situation from the 1950s, and then try to mix in some thinking that makes that more palatable. And, if you want to really step on those guys' toes, the retro gender polarity crowd, if like when they get into that thinking, the first concession they'll make is like, well, men have feminine energy and women have masculine energy. So why are we still talking about masculinity and femininity at that point? Why is that your energy system? Or why is that your typology of dividing things into masculinity and femininity if you're going to immediately disassociate the things from male-bodied people and female-bodied people? So that's a real bug in their bonnet, so to speak, of like, oh, okay, you immediately break down what you were talking about by saying men have feminine, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so they make an immediate counterpoint to their two-part typology. And then on the flip side of things, people who are really progressive or feminist and very much in the camp of gender neutrality, if I were to point out that female-bodied people make babies and male-bodied people are on average better at lifting heavy stuff, the conversation just goes south. I'm like a hate monger at that point. So those really are the constraints that we see as male-bodied and female-bodied people. Is I'm a little bit better at lifting heavy stuff, and you're way, way better at making babies. Yeah, and how that applies based on the kind of environment that we're in, whether we're living to be 80 or whether we're living to be 25 on average, which humans did for most of our history, that makes a huge difference in how gender naturally breaks down. And it's not something we're making up whatsoever. It's arranged around society. So in one way, it's a social construct, but society is a biological construct where people are surviving together. And for a lot of our history, that was more urgent, that society was a biological construct more so than something that we're making up as super rich, luxurious people. So we're so far from having real problems in my mind. Like my fridge is full, and our society in one way in the West is really stable if we're in a peaceful country. So that makes gender a very, very different topic, and it presents new realities that are luxurious in respect to the people 1,000 years ago who were living to the age of 25 on average, like really high childhood mortality. It's something that we've kind of forgotten about. I think we live in a really decadent world, and it's not just stuff we're making up.
Yeah, I was going to say they refer to that as first world problems, like all the stuff that aren't really problems to most of us. But I was going to ask, do you think, going back to the woman you met in Colombia, do you think your avoidant tendencies, which you had mentioned you haven't mentioned in the show, but I know from your info that you were an avoidant, would you say her being so radiantly in love was kind of scared your avoidant parts?
I like that kind of question. Yeah, thank you for that question. No, I don't. I really wanted more. I wanted more from her. I wanted a more sustainable, embodied type of connection. I wanted a deeper personal connection in terms of our shared style and interests. So in one way, she was wildly there and available in moments of just radiant love and flowing, fantastic spontaneity. But really, I wanted more connection than that could deliver, because that's there. We had beautiful, wordless moments of connection together that were very spiritual or loving. It's just like, oh my goodness, it's so easy to love this person. But then at the same time, I wanted to connect more. I wanted better communication and a deeper understanding. And it was almost like whatever love lightning hit was disorienting. That, yeah, I mean, you've seen the nature show where the baby duck imprints on the donkey and the baby duck thinks the donkey's its or whatever similar story is out there. So there was something so intense and beautiful that happened that it was almost like this process of fixation where those powerful energies or whatever that dynamic of love and connection was, it just came out of the heavens and hit us with a thunderbolt. And it almost made us forget that we're kind of mismatched in a lot of ways.
Okay. So I know you also, well, you have clients and you're a certified somatic relationship coach. Do you want to share how people can work with you or reach you? And you said you had a podcast. You could talk about that too.
Yeah.
And we can go into a little bit more after.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah. We're covering a lot of ground. I like it. I am indeed a relationship coach, and the work I do is often around attachment issues and reclaiming self through relationship. Most of my clients are women, and women often haven't had the experience of working with a man in depth. So there's something liberating about that. It's a very bold type of client who engages a man as a therapist or coach. It's also really powerful. A lot of leverage in working with someone across the gender divide. There's a lot of trust that's needed for that, and a very high rate of return that comes from that trust of like, okay, I'm going straight into my woman issues. And I've done that. I've had a female therapist that I worked with. It's like, okay, I'm doing it. I know I have issues with women. I'm going to go find a female therapist and sort some of this out. So to do that, powerful. And to have new experiences of relationship in a safe container, whether it's on Zoom, and I work mostly on Zoom, or whether it's in person, it creates a new map for taking that out into the world with your current partner or future partners, where it's like, okay, I know what it's like to be me in connection with somebody. I had things move through. I know what it's like to set boundaries or explore something at depth when I know that I can stop the clock and kind of raise my hand and process whatever's going on. So doing that work with a lot of awareness of our body, of what's actually going on for us internally, is powerful in that things come up and move through whatever traumas and dramas are down there, often come up when things feel really safe and we're with someone and regulated and feeling whatever is happening in our belly. Like, okay, the tightness in our shoulders becomes burning, scalding hot, and then something releases and it feels way better. So that kind of thing lights me up. I'm so honored to be doing this work. It's fantastic. And yeah, I like it.
And do you have a website or how can people reach you if they do want to work with you?
Yeah, I have my website, jackbohanan.com/heal. And that'll get you a great webinar. And you can also poke around on that site and find out about group coaching, other good stuff. But jackbohanan.com/heal. And I wish my name was easier to spell, but I'm just going to hope that you put it in the show notes because it's cumbersome.
Yeah. At least it's mostly how it sounds. Just an extra N in there.
Yeah, we got an extra N in there.
Yeah. And then you said you have a podcast. You want to talk about where
yeah.
Obviously we can know where to find it, but what it's called.
Yeah, they can look up the Polarity Unscripted podcast. So that's all my adventures and kooky interviews, and it's a lot of fun. The first episode is with that nice woman who I had the intense experience with. And shortly after I moved to Columbia, and we were sitting in a park together having a candid conversation. And I still appreciate that episode and that moment. So, that's it. Polarity Unscripted, and also jackbohanan.com/heal.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I was going to say we could talk more, or we can have just like a final thoughts kind of thing, or unless you feel like there's something we started to cover but didn't finish earlier.
Yeah. I hope everybody loves each other. I hope we get really good at connecting. I hope that we realize, everything's fine, and our fridge is full, and the only thing left to do after that is to get really aware of how we connect with each other and how we connect with ourselves, and come to a place of contentment where we can just sit in the light of spirit, or whatever you'd want to call it, because I think that's just about all we have to do here. So parting thoughts, peace and love.
All right. All right. Well, thank you very much. And if you love this episode, be sure to tell your friends about it and rate it as well. And of course, follow the show. And thank you again, Jack Bohanan with 2 N's.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamara.
All righty. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Frank Talk, sex and dating educates.